underneath you. Relax that back a bit. I'll put one of this old hat on if I were you. The sun can be pretty crooked when you're not used to it. All us fellas are used to it. Okay. Steady on those lines. Fellas, I'm holding you back. Let's try and get the lines going. Whoa, you're right.
Geoff Guest is a ringer, but in his time he's been a gold prospector, crocodile hunter, a rodeo rider and a pearl diver. Now aged 60, he is best known as one of the greatest horsemen in Queensland, and in many ways he typifies the image the white Australians have portrayed of themselves to the rest of the world, as tough and uncompromising as the land itself. But Geoff Guest is a hero with a difference. He was born part Aboriginal, and now spends his time voluntarily passing on a lifetime of skills to young Aboriginals, most of whom have fallen foul of our so-called civilized society and its laws.
When I first met Geoff some time ago, I asked him whether or not he thought it was possible to make a stockman out of a middle-aged, pommy journalist. It was meant as a mild sort of joke, but Geoff took it more as a challenge. And where challenges are concerned, Geoff Guest is not a man to stand aside.
Geoff literally leapt from the dusty pages of the history books, bringing with him an Australia that is as real today as it was 100 years ago. But he has lived through many of the momentous changes that have only recently so affected this remote part of the northern tropics of Australia.
How do you see the changes affecting people up here in Queensland?
Greatly. We're living in an era where we're not going to see places that I used to work on years back. We used to get our supply by boat once a year. The old Cora used to come down.
Born on an Aboriginal reserve, son of a part Aboriginal, part Scottish mother, and a father of unknown origin, as a small child, Geoff had to be moved from reserve to avoid being taken by the authorities, who at that time had the dubious policy of removing all white children in order that they may, in inverted commas, be given a better life.
Better houses, lighting plants like what we got here, we didn't have that.
Geoff escaped that net, but nevertheless admits that being born white has indeed helped him towards achieving that better life.
But we have to work to keep our power, you know, pay for your diesel. It's pretty expensive running a lighting plant. I like better roads, but I don't think we're any happier because we've got more debts, and you know, because we want and want.
Here on Geoff's property in Petford, North Queensland, surely I thought it might be possible for me to quietly observe two of Australia's most sacred of sacred cows. The ringer, hero of Australia's recent pioneering past, and the Aboriginals, the first Australians, and arguably members of the oldest living culture on Earth.
Bloody hell, you still asleep, Pom? I've been bellowing me lungs out for half an hour. Come on, wake up. Come on. Come on, the bloody cattle won't wait. You blokes are sleeping all day.
What I hadn't quite bargained for was Geoff's insistence that I live and learn alongside his other pupils.
Bloody night time.
Geoff and his part Aboriginal and part South Sea Islander wife look after as many as 30 kids at a time.
They'll be gone before we know. Come on, Frida. Out we go.
These underprivileged youngsters are sent to Geoff and Norma by the police and various children's organisations.
Come on, all you fellas, that sun's burning your eyes out. It's roasting your kidney fat.
And in my case, my co-pupils turned out to be a mixture of glue sniffers, alcoholics, persistent thieves and juvenile vagrants. But out here, under the watchful, disciplined, but sympathetic supervision of Geoff and Norma, you truly could not have expected to have met a nicer bunch of kids.
Okay. Don't anybody climb up on top either, eh?
Did you have a very tough, disciplined upbringing?
Well, yeah, I got a flogging with a whip when I was young.
Do you think that affected you?
Well, I lost my speech after one flogging. I couldn't speak for weeks after. Even now, I stutter bad. An Englishwoman taught me to speak again. Just hang on to this. I'll give you the drum on this again as we're going. Yeah. Take a bit of tension. This is a simple one I've been showing the boys. Got to think before I speak today, otherwise I stutter or can't pronounce words.
How old were you then when you...
I was about 7 when I got that flogging that I lost my speech.
And how old were you when you started work?
I started work when I was 10. I ran away when I was about 9 1/2 and went bush and picked up a job.
On a station?
On a station. Rita, come here, girlie.
This interruption by Geoff's dog, which was apparently a dingo and the first I'd ever seen, was a timely reminder to me that as a foreigner, I was naturally naive to many of the nuances and some of the problems that face modern Australia, not least of which is that political hotcake known simply over here as the Aboriginal problem. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Queensland. Mother was on Aboriginal mission, was part Aboriginal. She died when I was very young, and Auntie reared me until I was about 5. In those times, they used to shift people about on missions quite a bit. They'd just transfer you from one. I was in Cherbourg for a while, in Queensland, Wollongong, Tablin, and we're down at Lake Tyers, Victoria.
When you say they used to shift you around?
The government.
The government.
Yeah.
The historical background to the Aboriginal problem can, of course, be viewed from many angles.
If they didn't have all one family or one group of people, so they split them up. Okay, come on, all you blokes out and have a wash now and we'll run home.
But there is little doubt that these black natives were treated with violence and arrogance by the conquering white man. On the other hand, had you or I been one of those first battling white settlers, and had we been attacked by spear-throwing natives, would we have shot at them, or would we have politely handed them back their spears? There is nothing quite like washing in a freshwater creek at dawn, except perhaps sleeping through to midday in a 5-star hotel. In truth, I did feel pretty out of place out there in this big country. And it is a very big country, 2/3 of which is either uninhabited or uninhabitable. And just imagine, one of the first cattle stations over here was over 1 million acres. What no one had warned me was that from here on, Norma would take over the driving, and we were expected to run the rest of the way back to the farmhouse. Imagine what it must have been like for those first settlers in Australia. After 8 months of appalling conditions at sea, they were spilled onto this country like so many small white beads onto a vast brown blanket. Nowhere on earth could have been more different from the green hills of Ireland or the patchworked fields of England. And here they would have found strange birds that mock them with their laughter, plants that can kill you on contact, and perverse trees that in autumn hang onto their leaves and shed their bark. And what are the animals? Huge rabbits as big as a man that bounce like rubber balls across the horizon, and the platypus, that strangest of all creatures that resembles a cross between a rat and a duck. And as for the land, those parts of it that were potentially arable were covered in thick, dense forest, and the rest was just stone and desert. And on top of this, they had to put up with being attacked by small bands of natives, whose instrument of war was a bent stick that either took your head off or returned itself to the thrower. Surely, had they been free men, they would have endured another 8 months of deprivation at sea and gone home. But they were not, and so began the taming of this wildest of wild countries that is still going on today.
Get straight in the chores, come on, fellas.
As for me, my position in this particular hierarchy had been quickly determined. It was about 100 paces and 5 minutes behind the slowest. My memory of that first run and my aching limbs on the outside, and worse, 20 years of whiskey and cigarettes on the inside, still leave me breathless.
Apparently, to be a good ringer, you've also got to be a long-distance runner, too. I suppose that's in case your horse gets lost in the outback. Boy, those kids are fit. But that's no real excuse for me, because even though they've got 20 years on me, the guy who just sprinted through first, the old man as they call him, is 60.
incredible. Anyway, I've got to go and catch a wild horse now, apparently.
Right. Block the gate and I'll draft out. Whee!
Most of these horses seem pretty wild to me, but apparently these were the tame ones that were being sifted out for use that day. As Geoff had explained to me, horses are great levelers. Being a streetwise city dweller out here means little when faced with one of these beasts. Out here, you are who you are, standing in your boots. And by teaching these young Aboriginals the arts and skills of being stockmen, Geoff was doing his best to bring them slowly into a new world. A new world that includes such things as the work ethic and the value of money and so on. But Geoff believes it is their involvement with the horses that helps him to achieve a remarkable job rate. In fact, 90% of all kids leaving Petford leave with a job to go to.
How old were you when you first got involved with horses?
Oh, I can't remember always being involved.
So you were really born into a
horse era
of horses?
Yeah. I was out in Property, remember, but in the town the iceman had horse, the sandry cart man had horses, the baker had horses. But they handle a horse that's never been touched before and they have a close association with it. It's hands-on. It's something I've done that. I'm the first one to touch this horse. I'm the first to ride it. It's my horse. I'm going to ride it and train it. That's something they're pretty proud of. It's not an easy thing to do, to break in a horse that hasn't been touched before, especially when they're green and really don't know what they're doing.
Without Geoff's wife Norma, Petford simply would not exist. Year-round and single-handedly, she is mother and cook to up to 30 kids at a time.
Jeffrey! Jeffrey! Come here a minute, please.
And I was to discover Norma is a lady not to be crossed. Breakfast was usually, no, always, cornflakes, which was just like home, and stew, which I simply couldn't handle. From that moment on, in Norma's eyes at least, I was to be treated with the utmost suspicion.
Down the crows, Pom. What are you trying to do there? Hey! First, always hang on to your horse. This fella doesn't need hanging on to. He's nice and quiet. But you're not putting a napkin on him. You're not trying to cover up his rump. Over his wither. Put your hand on the saddle like this, under here. And then you can put your saddle on. Just playing around.
Geoff, too, was uncompromising in his insistence that I was here to learn.
And underneath and see if this other side is all right. Yeah? You got to check to see if that girth's right, that other side, sport.
His teaching methods, like the rest of him, were uncomplicated and to the point. He would explain once and once only how something was done, and then it was up to you to get on with it.
I'll come back underneath her?
Okay, back over here and watch how I do this knot now.
All right.
Find you can adjust it exactly how you want to. It's not big and bulky like buckles, and you can repair it out in the bush.
Right.
Okay, mate, give it a go. Leave him around there with these old fellas. Get off that reins, Jeffrey. Knee in, now swing over. All right.
Ooh, Cooper. Whew. It's about 20 years ago since I last sat on a horse. I must admit, I'm quite enjoying it. It's a lot different from the pony club days I remember back in the old country.
Geoff sat on a horse as though he was part of it, and these youngsters followed his example with the sort of ease that could only be expected of Aboriginals, who are, after all, well known throughout Australia for their natural horsemanship. But as for me, I seem to have some difficulty in synchronizing my backside coming down with that of the horses coming up. With the result, the horse and I regularly parted company. In fact, my feet were just about the only part of me that had not been either bruised, chafed, or strained. But Geoff insisted that toe massage was the only prescription that guaranteed to get me back on my feet.
Down to go. We go back to this deep one.
Oh, that one hurts. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Where did you learn to do this, Geoff?
Apparently, Geoff had learnt this technique in China, and I began to understand there was a great deal more to this man than I had first realized.
Folks are a lot cleverer than what people think they are, and know a lot more, such as herbs, acupuncture, and this. I think one day when doctors and medicine finally studied, they find there's more in what they think.
Ouch! Oh. That one hurts. Oh!
Hey. Whoa. You can swear if you like, if it helps you. Makes it the same.
Damn.
Apart from China, Geoff had also travelled extensively throughout Malaysia, South America and Africa, transporting, as he put it, certain equipment by horse to outlying areas. What that equipment was, I have to leave you to guess at. But it was during this period that, in true pioneering tradition, he both made and lost a fortune. He had also travelled throughout Canada and the United States as a trick rider and part-time hypnotist.
Right.
What can you tell from that? Do you think there's something in hypnotism?
When I was travelling around the sideshows, that was one of our acts. We'd hypnotise people, but people have got to want to be hypnotised. Definitely you've got to get the thoughts of a horse, you've got to have him fully concentrate on you.
I mean, you believe that the horse has a certain type of brain, I imagine, is it?
He can think and reason a certain amount, but he doesn't reason like us.
Until the previous day, this 12-year-old stallion had never seen a man. The normal way out here of breaking such an animal would be to tie its front legs together, put a bag over its head, and force it into submission. Geoff, however, used a single rope and a great deal of simple psychology.
Well, there's lots of ways of breaking a horse. Every horse individual. You get a high-strung thoroughbred, you might take a bit longer or a bit quieter because he's more sensitive. But they're all individual.
And at Petford, everyone is treated as an individual. Both Geoff and Norma have learnt well the art of tempering discipline with reward and hard work with humour.
Okay, Mark, come on up and we'll give you a drum how to handle this pony now, eh?
Yeah, right.
Now, I don't know if you ever noticed two stallions playing in a paddock or when a new horse comes into a mob, one of them will pretend to bite him, might only half bite. The horse jumps away.
Geoff explained how important it was to gain the animal's trust. Never, he said, fight him, and particularly never face to face. By only pulling on the rope at a 90-degree angle, the horse will come to understand that you are quite equal to him in strength, and only then can a dialogue begin.
That's a pull, that's hanging on to it and will confuse him. So if he looks like moving, you keep him awake with it.
Just a little tap.
That's right.
Yeah.
But if he goes to move, you really pull him hard, but release him straight away so he understands it's good to stand still.
Right.
Okay, just pull her up there. Here's the rope, and here's the switch.
Geoff also explained how in the outback, the business of trust was vital, not only between man and horse, but also between man and man, when often your life may depend on it. What a lesson, I thought, we could learn from that in the cities.
Release now, he's standing still. Release now, he's standing still. I'll come in the side, okay. Just come this way a bit so you're a bit frontal to him, but just keep the feel of the rope on him. Just feel the rope and go on up to him. Just talk as you go.
Oh, come on, lad.
You
Come on, lad.
but
Come on, lad. You're all right. Come on, lad.
you could
Come
be
on.
a Christian, so don't swear.
Come on, lad.
Oh, lad,
Come on,
talk
lad.
to him.
Come
Talk
on.
to him.
Standing there being stroked. Eh? You want to get out in that bush, don't you? Eh? Come on, fella. You're all right. You're all right. Quietly, quiet. You're okay. Yeah, shh, 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 shh. Quieten down. Quieten down. That's all right. That's all right. There you go. There you go. There you go. Well, by the way, this Brumby, as they call him, was acting up this morning. The last thing... Whoa, now. The last thing I expected was to be able to walk up to it like that and stroke its neck. It's great credit, I think, to Geoff Guest and his patience, the way he can take a wild horse and get it this quiet in less than a couple of hours. It's amazing. There you go. There you go.
You know, even yourself, the Brumby you're handling, I think you're pretty pleased with your handling so far, aren't you?
Well, just to be able to go up and stroke its neck was something for me, certainly. You seem to have a lot of eye contact with it. Do you think that's important?
I think so, because horses watch one another's eyes. See a horse who's dominant over another. If he squints his eyes at another inferior horse in the pecking order, it'll get out of his way quick smart.
How would you describe your method?
Of understanding, trying to get the horse to understand what we want instead of overpowering him.
Geoff was able to quite naturally transfer his skills in the handling of horses to the handling of children. Without qualifications for either, he was evidently master of both.
While we're up in the yard where things could be dangerous handling horses, everybody's got to do what I tell them. But down here we can yarn and wrestle and come up with new ideas, and often the youngsters come up with something I haven't thought of. You know, you can't have authority 24 hours a day. There's got to be a turning off point at a meal. You can't growl at somebody. To the Aboriginal people, eating is a very important thing, and you don't bring up business or authority during a meal.
My own relationship with the kids had been reserved on both our parts, but it was this little fellow who really began to melt the ice between us. Coming from a deprived background and prone to epilepsy, I think he recognized that I too was an outsider and that he would be my friend. In these idyllic surroundings, it was possible to see clearly the distance these youngsters still had to travel before they would be capable of joining the computerized frenzy of our space-age world.
Just walking close and hang on.
It is unlikely that my little friend would ever be capable of joining such a world.
Or hitting back or anything like that, because he doesn't know. The only little problem, he can't hurt you, right? Come on. Just hang on to one arm, right? So he can't throw himself, so he can't hurt himself.
But without Geoff's help, he had no expectations whatsoever. Petford is this little boy's last chance, but Geoff remains convinced that after just a few months here, he will have him riding with the best of them and fully capable of taking up a job as, say, a stable hand on a large property.
Come on. Come on, it's not hurting you, Billy.
Look, it's on my face.
Yeah, see? Just undo his shirt button there, and just cool his chest down a bit. He's been able to get away with it all his life.
Come on, Billy. Come on. Come on.
The easiest way is to just resist it and be calm. You know, not punish him.
Come on.
But just restrain it.
You want a drink?
Come on,
Come
mate.
on.
You're right. Steady, steady.
I'll have to throw this bucket on you if I can't wipe you.
You're not throwing a fit, he's bunging on. David hit him, and then he threw a stone at Freddie, and Freddie threw a stone back at him, and he went to pieces. Yeah, there we are. Good lad. There, oh, that's enough,
Drink
mate.
it.
That's enough.
Drink it.
Come on,
Swallow
good
it.
boy.
Swallow it.
I don't know. You want a bit more water?
Come
on, you're right. Have a bit more water. Good boy.
You got a dry throat there.
There we are.
Yeah, that'll sound
Come on,
down.
you're right. You're down here. It's hard for me to hang on to this. How's that? Is that cooling down, mate?
I don't know who's on me.
Yeah, right, okay. But just take it down this way, so I don't know that way, so I don't hurt him.
Come on. Come on,
If ever
Billy.
you got to hold somebody, make sure you hold them so they can't mistake it you're hurting them. And nobody's going to hurt you, right? Come on. You can't lose your temper like this, right? Right? Because you threw the stone first, right? And they shouldn't have thrown the stone back at you. But you can't lose your temper. Can we get another drink of water? That'll help. But he's not actually taking a fit now. He's sort of lost his temper. Now look, you fellas are fortunate. You don't have a problem like this. This lad's a little bit slow. He takes fits. And people have teased him and tormented him all his life. You're right. You're right. Now, if we're going to help him, you've got to help me help him, and don't tease him. If he hits you and throws a stone at you, try and talk to him properly instead of being cruel to him. Jeffrey, when you're working with him, you help him and show him. Because aren't you lucky you can do things good? And you know what, he's been everywhere. Just lately, he's been to about 15 different places, and they've all turned him back and couldn't help him. Well, don't we want to be able to help him? Yeah. Hey, Jeffrey? Yeah. David? Hey, Billy? Hey? Right, there you are, Norma. There's Norma coming now, Billy.
Come down the house. You're come down the house.
Have a rest for a while.
Eh? Billy?
Now, don't you feel really lucky that you're not sick like this? You know, he was really trembling if I was going to hit him when I went up there. Think how fortunate we all are, eh? Sometimes you can have no money, but sometimes you can have no legs. And that's sometimes better than having sickness like this.
Has he got easier to handle, as it were?
Oh, much better, because he knows what he can do and can't do. It's simple for him. No, there's nothing changes. It's the same regulations or rules, whatever you like to call it, from today. It's a safe environment. Whereas environment's changing, where a person sends a youngster to school one day, forces them to school, and then lets them get away with it the next day, well, that youngster's not real happy with it. Just hang on to this and we'll go on with our plaiting lesson. We seem
do you want to try this one?
This secret plait, I'll show you that.
Yeah.
We seem to be doing more yarn than what I am teaching you plait. Just hang on to this.
Okay.
You'll need to learn this one. A lot of stations use red-hide reins. It's called a secret plait.
This looks as though it's completely impossible.
It's not. I'll show you how it's done, Mark. Don't panic. It's 1, 2, 3, right?
Right.
It's through the top left-hand corner.
Right.
And bottom right-hand corner, okay? No join in it. But it's very handy for red-hide reins, you know.
Oh, I see.
Just watch again. Just take it.
Can we sort of continue to yarn, as you say, while
we may as well.
You're doing that?
That's no problem. I want to get this finished.
Okay.
Go for your life.
All right. Do you find that the boys you get here are suffering a backlash, as it were, from things that have happened to their tribes and so on?
Very much so, especially up the top end of the peninsula. There's been families shifted off their homes burnt. The police come and marched them off, shot their dogs, put them on board a boat and shifted them to another settlement. And I think it's greatly affected a lot of people, greatly, because the younger ones are saying, well, why didn't Dad so good? Why didn't he punch that policeman who burnt our house down? Why did they shift us? You know, the big mining company wanted it.
There are, not surprisingly, many versions of this particular story. Some people, that is some white people, claim that the conditions on the reserves were so appalling and the disease so widespread that it became necessary to move these people.
I know a lot of youngsters from a certain area that were shifted this way, and most of them have grown up with a bad background.
To me, what is important is that whatever the truth may be, Geoff and these youngsters believe their version. So either it was true, or there had been a disastrous breakdown in communications.
This is my Aboriginal reserve, and it's supposed to be mine. You can't shift me. They're sort of leaders, and yet they're crushed down. So it's natural their youngsters are leaders in a sense, but felt their parents weren't strong enough, so they're resisting authority. A lot of people say, well, they're only making it hard for himself. But throughout the world, a lot of people that bucked authority are leaders.
What is quite certain is that without Geoff's help, all these basically good young people would continue to have a growing resentment towards society. Without for a minute breaking trust with his own Aboriginal upbringing, Geoff was undoubtedly leading these kids towards a better future. Already they were growing fast in confidence. They took to riding literally like ducks take to water.
Come on.
As for myself, well, I was still the tail-end Charlie, but I counted myself lucky to have experienced something of the flavour of this land. For surely Australia is, first and foremost, the land.
That things will be better, and it's happening, but some people are resisting it or jealous of the help. But I really do think that when help is given, it should explain that other people had that opportunity. So it's, I think, as well as Aboriginal being trained how to work, I also believe a lot of managers, head stockmen, could do with some lessons too. Instead of just the whip, you'll do what I tell you or I'll knock you down business. Another thing a lot of people don't understand that is in some communities, if you want to tell somebody something, you tell them individually. You don't get 6 people and say, rightio, get your picks and shovels or your saddles, whatever it is, and go and do it now. You ask everybody separately. It's manners to do it that way.
How many acres do you own, Graham?
Oh, I haven't really worked it out. It's about 85 square mile, 640 acres to the square mile, or something about 55,000, give or take 1,000 or 2, I suppose.
Yeah. To me, of course, that sounded like a huge estate. But apparently out here, it's little more than a large paddock.
The property's a 500 square mile to 2,000 square mile.
But all right for horses?
All right for horses. I breed horses and we go contract mustering and sell broken-in horses. We get by.
Do you still do a bit of the tin, Geoff?
Oh, yeah, I've made a living. I used to work a pack horse and work around the creeks and gullies. Before all the big alluvial fellas come in, the ground has been heavily worked the last few years with tin boom. Tin prices boomed, and I'm afraid they've dropped dramatically lately. You can't make a living out of alluvial at present.
Were you working on your own then, or?
I was working on my own when I started off, just with a pan like this, and we built up until we were shifting in partnership, possibly 100 yards an hour, a ton of tin a day.
A ton a day?
A ton a day, worth about $7,000 a ton at the time. Hear that tin rattling? There's some nice coarse stuff there. The lighter sand will move out of it.
Yeah.
We bring it around.
Yeah.
You see, you can work exactly the same way as gold, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
But you've got to concentrate on the bottom. You're trying to get that, hear that tin rattling. Yeah, there's a couple of Poms on our boundary, or just out of our country, been doing it for years. And all they do is work by hand. They're a couple of twins. If you get a chance, we'll run you up and introduce you to them, eh?
Yeah, that'd be good. You say Poms?
Yeah, they're 2 twin Poms. How's things, mate?
How are you?
Not
Long
too
time
bad.
no see.
Yeah.
How are you?
G'day, how you going? I'd like you to meet a mate of mine, Mark. He's from the old country, you know. Only been out here a while, we're giving him a bit of a hard time, so thought we'd bring him up and say hello to you folks.
It's still there, is it?
Just about, isn't it? It's sinking slowly. But...
My meeting with the Pommy twins was equivalent to an Aussie meeting 2 of his mates wearing busbies and guarding Buckingham Palace. These extraordinary pair of toolmakers from Birmingham had no warning of our arrival.
That's in this camp. But in Australia, since '49.
Yet here they were, clean-shaven, hair-combed, and dressed identically. 100 miles from the nearest town, and nearer 10,000 miles from home, their standards were still rigidly maintained.
Called dish and spooning. It's a dish, a spoon.
With dish and spoon for the past 40 years, these two had literally been scratching a living from the nooks and crannies of the nearby creeks. And as illustrated by these 2 spoons, it had not been an easy life. The smaller of the 2 had been ground down to this size in countless creeks and gullies.
That's a lot of work went into that.
It all depends what he means by a living.
Yeah.
If he's getting himself under the average wage or anything like that, he's got to forget that if he comes out here and live like this.
This broken-down shack was their permanent home, and it was made of cardboard and beer bottles. So I asked them if they'd drunk all that beer.
No, we don't drink. We've got a fair income.
We were offered tea and cakes, and I left with the feeling that I had just been a guest at the Australian equivalent of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party.
People from the land are much the same. You know, if they think the same way, that they don't worry about if it's knock-off time. If there's something to do, you hop in and do it. They're independent. It doesn't matter where it's Canada, America, or you go to a poor place like India. If somebody's got a couple of acres of land and they're farming, they're pretty proud of it and independent sort of people.
Pride and independence. The Pommy twins had it, and surely it was pride and independence that above all these kids were learning here at Petford.
Hey, David, have you seen this? I'll show you a little joke. Do you want to look, Geoffrey?
Yeah.
Have a look. You see this match?
Yeah.
I'll break it like that. Could you balance that on your little finger? Let's try. Keep still. Right. Now, you know that birds have got wings, yeah?
Yeah.
You've got to say the word wing twice close together, leave a little gap, and you say it twice close together again, leave another little gap, yeah? And keep on doing that until I tell you to stop, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get
When
it.
you like. Go on.
Wing, 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 wing.
Hello, who's speaking?
Jeffrey, come here!
What's your tea, man?
Stew!
Norma somehow produced 3 healthy meals a day for all these kids, despite the fact that she and Geoff could not afford to replace a broken stove. She had a fridge that would only work when the generator was fired up, and her hot water supply was nothing if not sporadic. Norma also supplied the basis for a secure family atmosphere, the first most of these kids would have known.
Isn't that Michael?
So I tied him up to a tree. I had a new nylon rope, good thick stuff, but apparently it was
What I had completely forgotten was that learning to be a stockman was much more than learning just about horses.
just well Norman let the dogs out of the truck. I was fighting him in the open. I hadn't even tipped his horns. He just about got me. It's a fairly big lump of wool. We was lucky to be able to pull him down again, but this is what he let the dogs out, or
Bluey.
blue dog, yeah. He was only a pup then, but flew in and grabbed him by the nose, and when he went down and kneeled down to get the dogs, I was over to get his tail and pull him over again. All I could do is fight him off, keep giving him my hat. He kept charging me, I kept sidestepping into his shoulder. Hello, cat, you couldn't catch a ball. You're a real show-off. But all you can catch is a rat. But you've got to be careful with balls, you don't get a second chance, hey? You're right.
Nosy the Pom.
Okay, Mark. You've got to watch these little Mickey balls, eh? You'll be learning to throw one of these shortly. So. That.
Yeah, okay, Geoff.
Okay, now, what I want you to do, I'll help you if you get into trouble. Come across the yard, but be ready to give him your hat, even if you throw your hat in front of him.
You're kidding.
No, you're right, mate. You see how I do it, but keep your eye on. He's only a little fella, he's only a little Mickey bull.
Yeah, he's got bloody big horns.
Oh, that's not that big. He's only a youngster and he's been belted. But just come across the way I did. I'll make a plan of how you're going to step on a rail, because they can jump up 3 or 4 foot, eh? But if you give them your hat, that's something to...
What do you mean, giving me a hat?
Well, often it takes your attention. And sometimes if you throw it in front of them when they charge, they'll stop and worry the hat. Okay, you're right. But come on, mate, I'll keep an eye on him.
I'll just move down a little bit this way.
Okay then, but take his attention and be ready to give him your hat. But you've got to know which foot you're going to jump up on a rail on if he does come. You're right, just go across the corner here now. You're right. He's not even listening, see? You're right. You're right. Okay. Now, come across this way, but
Where to?
just straight here, but keep your eye on him as you come, because you never know when he might charge. Now, give him your hat, Mark.
Get down face level, Mark.
That short encounter was quite enough for me, and as it turned out, for the bull too. Though what he had coming to him was far worse than what I had had to endure.
Will you mark him? And then I'll cut him, eh? Right, what's your mark then? It saved you. You bastard.
And that all happens before breakfast.
Oh, come on, Pommy, wake up. We'll be going without you, mate. Move.
Do you think that the Australian whites should feel guilty about the way their fathers treated the Aboriginals?
I don't think feeling guilty is going to help anybody, himself or other. I think something should be positively done so that the two people work side by side to make Australia better instead of jealous of one another. And what happens now, if an Aboriginal gets some aid, a lot of white people are jealous, and we're building up a hatred, which we shouldn't do. We should be building up a unity together to make Australia a better country, because for sure white Australians have a place here and there is a need from here, but I do think they should recognise that there was a people here before them.
Not run, I will hop. I will hop to you, Dora. We will hop, hop, hop.
Because of education and that, a lot of Aboriginal people are behind. Yeah, you got it.
Nip, run to see the kitten.
Yeah, you're getting better. A little bit louder too now. This will trick you, this one, eh?
The kitten is so little. She can sit in thick shoe.
Say this one so I can hear it, eh? What's that one there? Yeah, a little bit louder. I'm hard of hearing.
The shoe is wet with the mud.
I've been to a few places in the world, and I've seen poor people and that have problems. Anywhere where there's poor people, there's problems. You know, petty thieving and that, so drunkenness. So that's not just an Aboriginal problem. I think it's a problem with people all over the world, poor people, poor housing. I'm sure in England, in the poorer housing types, there's social problems.
Sure, you read about them in the newspapers all the time.
Okay, so this is what I'm getting at. So, but because a lot of Aboriginal people are poor, I think there's a problem. There's been a housing shortage, lack of opportunities, and you just can't give massive money and write that. It's got to come through training, family training, and handed down from father to son environment.
Is Petford really your way of putting something back into the world?
I'm trying my hardest. to Mark. I'd like to think that. I'd like to see some of these skills, making whips, plaiting, training a horse properly so the horse understands what you want. Some of these skills are passing with the rush into the new era. I think people are going to still need horses, even though helicopters are used a lot now, but motorbikes.
But tell me, what gets... Why do you put so much effort into it? Because at the moment you're unpaid. It's almost costing you money to have these masses of kids around you and Norma all the time. Why do you put so much effort into it?
I like Australia, I like kids, and these kids are future leaders of Australia, eh? You know, they mightn't be Prime Ministers, what I have here, but they're workers, they're going to have jobs in the station, pay tax, and rear their kids up and give them a go. Whereas unless they get that chance, Australia's doomed unless we look after our youngsters.
You're a survivor, Geoff. You've done many things in your life. You've been a crocodile shooter, you've been a kangaroo shooter, you've ridden trick riding at on the circuses, you've done rodeo. Do you think there's much room left in the modern world for people to live a life like yours?
We have a lot of youngsters come from troubled homes, and all they need is to know what to do and what they can't do. I don't think it'd be easier for a young fellow now, but you know, I think there's opportunities for adventure.
And there is. Australia is still a land of adventure and opportunity. Most of these young Australians will get jobs, and provided they save their earnings well, then each and every one of them will be able to afford a deposit on their own property by the time they're 25 years old. So where does that leave the Aboriginal problem? Well, as Geoff puts it, it's a problem only because people think of it as one. There are, of course, cultural differences between the Aboriginals and the new white Australians, which is hardly surprising, when one considers, for instance, that steam trains were thundering around America and Britain long before the Aboriginals had even conceived of the wheel. And while in Europe we were still building our many cultural boundaries, the Aboriginals were yet to build a single wall. As far as Geoff is concerned, a few generations is simply not enough time to divert a people from 30 or perhaps 60,000 years of living by the land and on the land to a new world culture of materialistic achievement. So with no degree in social engineering or any other kind, he's quietly going about the business of taking these kids out of the cities and returning them to the land, a land on which their culture is firmly based.
Take the plate out of the stir.
And as for me, well, the kids had threatened me from the outset with initiation by molasses, and I was not to be spared.
Just as I'm an Aussie, I reckon I'm just about an Aboriginal. Bloody hell. I suppose that's initiation for you. Oh, I'm going to get washed.
Have you any regrets?
Bad life? No. Sure, I'd like to have been clever and smarter and stronger and better, but I'm happy. You're off now, Mark, are you?
Yes, I am, thanks, old man. Thank you for everything.
No problem at all. Do you think Pom will ever become a jackaroo, Norma?
Much
He's not as bad as all that, eh?
Bye to both of you, and thank you both
Okay.
very much.
See you. Best of luck, mate. All right.
Bye now.
Hey, Pom, you forgot your hat. Good, we'll put you in a cricket team. See you, mate.
Bye now.
You're likely to get sunstroke without it. All right.